What if the life you are living right now is not the life you were meant to live? And what if the only thing keeping you from a completely different future is a thought you have repeated to yourself for years? Stay until the end, because one simple question changed a young man's life forever. And that question might change the way you look at your own life. In a quiet town, there lived a young man named Arjun. Arjun was not rich, he was not famous, he had no powerful connections. And as far as the people around him were concerned, he was just an ordinary young man working in a small printing shop. Every morning, Arjun arrived early, he cleaned the floor, he arranged the papers, he printed bills, posters, and forms. His hands smelled of ink. His shirt was usually dusty, and the shop itself was tiny. One table, one old printing machine, one narrow window. But that window was about to become the most important thing in Arjun's life. Because every day while working inside that little shop, Arjun looked through it. And what he saw outside made him feel something he could never explain. A big road, fast cars, confident people, people going somewhere, people building something, people living the kind of life Arjun secretly wished he had. He watched them quietly, and every time he did, a little voice inside him whispered, "That life is not for you." But here is the strange part. Arjun had once believed he could do something great. When he was younger, he loved design and art. He loved colors. He loved shapes. He loved creating things that made people stop and look. He dreamed of becoming a designer. Then life happened. His father became sick. Money became tight. Responsibilities became heavier. And slowly something changed. Arjun stopped dreaming, not because his dream disappeared, but because he became afraid of it. He started telling himself, "Be realistic, be safe, don't dream too big." And whenever a new idea entered his mind, fear arrived seconds later. What if I fail? What if people laugh at me? What if I am not good enough? What if I lose everything? So Arjun chose the safest option. He stayed quiet, he worked, he earned just enough, and he survived. But every night after the shop closed, something inside him felt strangely empty. He was not completely unhappy, he was not completely broken, he simply felt small. And then one evening, something happened that he would remember for the rest of his life. Arjun finished work late, the street was quiet, the sky had turned soft orange. He locked the shop and sat on the steps outside. In his hands was a poster. It was not anything extraordinary, but it looked beautiful because Arjun had designed it himself, secretly, just for himself. For a few seconds, he smiled. For the first time that day, he felt proud. Then fear returned. The same old voice whispered, "This is useless. Nobody will care. What do you think you are? You are just a shop worker." Arjun stared at the poster. Then he slowly folded it, put it inside his bag, and walked home. He thought that was the end of it. But the next morning, someone walked into the printing shop who would completely change the direction of his life. His name was Mr. Mehta. He was an older man who regularly came to the shop to print small notices. He did not talk much, but he noticed everything. That morning, Mr. Mehta saw the poster lying on Arjun's table. He picked it up. He looked at it. Then he looked at Arjun and asked, "Did you make this?" Arjun immediately became nervous. "Yes, just for practice," he replied. Mr. Mehta looked at the poster again. Then he asked something Arjun was not expecting. "Why are you hiding it?" Arjun said nothing. Mr. Mehta smiled. Then he looked toward the small window and said, something that Arjun would never forget. Arjun, you live in a small room. He paused. But your window is big. Arjun looked confused. Then Mr. Mehta asked, so why are you always looking down? That question stayed in Arjun's mind. But Mr. Mehta was not finished. He said, most people don't fail because life is hard. Then he looked directly at Arjun. They fail because they start believing their life can never become bigger. Arjun did not know what to say. Then came the question that changed everything. Mr. Mehta asked if nothing was stopping you. He paused. No fear, no money problems, no people's opinions, no limits. Then he asked, what would you do? Arjun froze. Nobody had ever asked him that. People had asked him what job he wanted, how much money he wanted, where he wanted to live, but nobody had ever asked him what he would do if he was not afraid. That night, Arjun could not sleep. The question kept coming back. What would I do if I stopped thinking small? He looked around his tiny room. Everything was ordinary. The old furniture, the small table, the quiet walls, but then he noticed something. There was a window. He walked toward it. Outside the sky was dark, and above him were thousands of stars. Arjun stared at them for a long time. Then something inside him changed. For the first time in years, he allowed himself to imagine a different life. No fear, no excuses, no limits. He whispered, I want to design, then I want to create, and finally, I want people to see my work. His heart felt lighter. But here is what makes this story important. Arjun did not quit his job the next morning. He did not borrow money. He did not make some dramatic decision. He simply did one small thing. He decided to give his dream 1 hour every day. After work, while everyone else was going home, Arjun stayed behind. He practiced, he designed posters, he studied, he made mistakes, he started again, and eventually he began sharing his designs online using his simple phone. At first, nothing happened, no likes, no comments, no clients, nothing. Days passed, still nothing. And this is where most people would stop. But Arjun remembered the question. What would you do if you were not afraid? So he continued. Then one day, one person liked his design, just one. The next day, another person commented. It was not much. But to Arjun, it meant everything. Because something had changed. Not the world, not his job, not his bank account, his thinking. Fear was still there, but it was not controlling him anymore. Weeks passed, then one afternoon the owner of a local shop walked into the printing store. He looked at Arjun and said, I saw your design online. Arjun's heart started beating faster. Then the man asked, can you make one for my shop? For a moment, Arjun did not know what to say. His hands were shaking, but he looked at the man and said, yes. That one word became the beginning of something bigger. Arjun worked carefully, he gave everything he had. And when he finished, the shop owner looked at the design. He smiled and said, this looks good. That small sentence changed Arjun's confidence. Then another person noticed his work, then another. Slowly word began to spread. Not quickly, not loudly, but steadily. Arjun still worked at the printing shop, but something inside him was completely different. His work had meaning, his walk had confidence, and his eyes no longer looked down. They looked forward. Then one evening, Arjun sat near the same window where he had spent so many days watching other people's lives. The road looked exactly the same. Cars, people, noise, everything was the same except Arjun. Mr. Mehta walked into the shop. He looked at Arjun, then he smiled and asked, you cleaned the window. Arjun smiled and quietly replied, no. He looked through the window, then said, I cleaned my thinking. Mr. Mehta smiled and walked away. Arjun sat there for a moment and finally understood something. His life had not changed in one day. His circumstances had not magically disappeared, but he had changed first. And when his thinking changed, his actions changed. When his actions changed, his opportunities changed. And when his opportunities changed, his life began to change. That's the lesson. Sometimes we think we need a better job, more money, more connections, more luck, a better place, a better opportunity, but sometimes the first thing we need to change is the way we think about ourselves. Because if you constantly tell yourself, I can't, you will eventually stop trying. If you tell yourself, I am not good enough, you may never discover what you are capable of. And if you keep thinking your life must remain small, you may never give yourself permission to build something bigger. Remember Arjun. He did not become successful because someone magically rescued him. He became different because he finally asked himself a different question. What would I do if I stopped thinking small? Now I want you to ask yourself the same question. Forget what people expect from you for a moment. Forget your fears, forget the excuses, forget the voice telling you to stay where you are, and ask yourself honestly, if nothing was stopping me, what would I do? What dream would you chase? What skill would you learn? What business would you start? What change would you make? What version of yourself would you become? Maybe your life does not need to change completely today. Maybe you just need to change the way you see it. Because sometimes your biggest limitation is not your situation, it's the size of your thinking. Think bigger, start smaller, take one step, then another, and keep going. Because life may not change in one day, but one new thought can change the direction of your entire life. If this story touched your heart, don't just listen to it and move on. Take a moment, ask yourself that question. And if you are ready to think bigger, comment below. I will think bigger. And remember, when thinking changes, life changes.